heroes and how they did it. And I always feel a little lied to in these moments because I doubt that's what most of these people's lives have actually felt like as a person in the world. Since I was a little kid, pretty much everything I've ever done has been a complete trash fire of a failure. And actually that's not even true because my failures are sort of more painful than that. At least trash fires are like spectacular. But my failures were ignorable and small and completely irrelevant. For example, I have boxes of thousands of CDs in my garage that never sold. I've invented camera gear that totally flopped and never went anywhere. I've spent 2 years working on albums that I never released because I was just completely done with them and bored and fed up. I've had miss after miss after misses and misses and misses in my life, freckled on occasion with a spark of something awesome followed by more misses over and over again. This is the truth. This is the norm. And it's not even the norm for being an artist. This is the norm for being a freaking human being. And yet when we go onto YouTube or when we go to conferences or when we go to the movies, we hear stories of this like special moment, this like snowflake of an instant where everything worked and sparked for somebody. And fuck that. I so much. I prefer to hear a talk about this stuff, the grind, the moments where I've grown and learned and face planted. And so these days I find myself gravitating less towards stories of the random outlying success and more towards stories of how exactly to deal with the never-ending shit barrage of the human experience. How to deal with this stuff. Day after day after day after day. Because this is most of life. Most of life is this. And that's what this talk is about. Because at the end of the day, nothing works. Including the current style of this talk. While it is super fun to sync up a slide every 6 words with a new explanatory image, this presentation is already 45 slides, and I have only been talking for 105 seconds, which is a little faster than a new slide every 3 seconds, and at that rate I'd need 771 slides just to talk for 30 minutes, and meanwhile my calendar is a total mess, and my email inbox is completely unmanageable, and I don't have time to make 771 slides. So there you go, another bad fucking idea. But what do you expect? Because nothing works. So actually, for real, I am going to stop doing that thing now. But the style of the talk is changing. The idea behind this talk remains. The fact that nothing works. I do want to talk about that. What I did is I went through my iPhoto library and I just found all of the things in my life that never went anywhere, and I want to show them all to you. So here you go. Here's my face plants. When I was a kid, this is me. I had a camera. I got a camera when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I filmed everything. I now have like hundreds of hours of footage of like hanging out with my mom and like going to cool places and going on vacation. And at some point I thought I'd edit together all these clips and make some awesome thing, and then I never did, so it's a miss. Nothing ever. I literally have boxes of these tapes sitting in my garage, and oh god, the horrible thing was I was in a lift the other day, and the lift driver worked on like digital remastering like tapes and stuff, and he told me that high-A tapes, which is what I film on, last for 5 years and then they crumble, and I was like, oh fuck. So talk about a dud. Okay, more duds. This is an animation I worked on called North Pole Plantation, and oh my god, I worked on this animation for so long, built so many sets. This is my buddy Adam. He and I used to spend summers together just making these animations, and animation is incredibly tedious. When you want to move the eyes on a character, you have to like stick a toothpick into the eye and like shift it a little bit. You take, animation is 24 frames per second, so you have to take 24 pictures to get 1 second of footage. And we would build these sets and sit there all day and get like 4 seconds of footage at the end of like a 10-hour day of animating. When you want to make the character talk, you have to like take a razor blade and cut off their mouth and put on a new mouth with like a different vowel shape, and you do this over and over again, and you smooth out the seams so you don't see it. Oh my god, the work that went into these animations, and like this was in high school, so YouTube didn't even exist, so like literally nobody saw these. Like I made them, and I showed my parents, and that was it. Duds, oh god, the duds. More misses. Okay, this is a band, this is us in a recording studio. It's my partner, Thessaly Lerner. when I was like at the very end of high school, I got a job as an actor in a video game called The Sims 2. I was the voice of the teenage boy in this video game. She's the voice of the teenage girl. And we would flap like, we would like speak gibberish, you know, like Sims gibberish. So we did this in the studio for so long, and like people that played the game would hear our voices, but we wanted to make music and stuff, so we started a band called Now We Have Faces. And we made music, and we put out some records, and it just we thought it would go somewhere, and it never went anywhere. Nothing ever happened of it. This one is particularly heartbreaking. This is an album that I worked on for 6 months. I literally spent 6 months working on this record, and everything about it was like, I was so meticulous about crafting. That character on the front, that little like human person, was actually like a piece of like clay sculpted thing that I made. And like, you know, I stitched in with photo. I learned how to do Photoshop just to make the album art. Like, I EQ'd the snare drum. You know, it was like, I spent so much time on this record. It was MySpace days, and I put it up, and it was like 3 plays a day on MySpace. And so I figured, well, maybe I'll try touring. And so I like toured. I booked like 4 tours up and down the West Coast, and spent like most of my time in a car. Don't ever tour the Pacific Northwest in the winter, it's awful. But like, we would play these shows to 8 people or 5 people would show up at these bars. And I was still like singing my guts out and just like sweating and playing for these big empty rooms. Man, this really feels like a dud, because it's like in a physical spot and nobody's there, and that's woof. We did the tour in 2 Priuses. We called it the 2 Prius tour. my buddy had a Prius and I had a Prius, and that's Ryan there. He was under 21, and one night we got to a venue, and he had a fake ID, and he showed the bouncer his ID, and they caught him. And so he wasn't allowed to play his own show. So like this 3-band show, we had booked a headliner, and he and I were going to open, but his band couldn't play now. And then about 20 minutes later, the bar told me that the headliner just didn't show up. So we had like 3 hours of music planned, and I was and I was a solo artist, so I just had to like do the show by myself. But the thing about the headliner not showing up is that nobody else comes either, like no audience people. And when I say nobody this time, I literally mean nobody. There was nobody in this room except for the bartender. The bartender was there, and I was playing the show on stage, and the bartender was like 100 feet from me, because it was this like 500-person room. And then about 20 minutes into my set, the fucking bartender left. And I was literally on stage, empty, just like playing my guts out. This is that show. Oh boy, is that a dud. This is a music video that I made. The idea was this woman was going to come out of a painting, and this person in the real world was going to fall in love with this woman who came out of this painting, and their love, of course, was doomed. And I made all these cool costumes and sets, and I built these lights that animated above a bunch of cotton balls and got it to look like a sunset, and posted this video, and there was like a little bump from it, and then it just like went away and nothing happened. Another dud. It took me 3 months, and I spent so much time working on that music video. At the time, I was living in my dad's house. After college, like all my friends went off and got really high-paying jobs, and I wanted to be a musician. I moved back in with my dad. I was very fortunate to be able to move back in with my dad. But it was also like a little embarrassing to like move home after college. And there was a guitar pedal company that was sending me pedals. And I would put these pedals in my videos. I'd kind of make them demo videos. And they would post them on their site. And I remember a friend telling me at the time, like, Jack, it takes you 3 days to make a video. These pedals cost like $100. Why are you spending 3 days of your time? Like, just buy the pedal. And I was hoping that maybe something would happen, or the company would like they would like go viral or something. And it didn't. It kind of, nothing really happened from it. But it did allow me to kind of invest in the studio and build up my gear. And I got a bunch of guitar pedals, and it like sculpted my sound over a few years. At the end of the day, though, nothing really happened from it. Okay. A lot of duds. I want to just talk briefly about the first thing I did that that didn't feel like a dud. That was not a dud. It was Pamplemousse. Any Pamplemousse fans in the house? All right, cool. I started a band with my girlfriend at the time. Now she's my wife, Natalie. This was the first time in my life where it didn't feel like a total dud. We made videos, and we got featured on the YouTube homepage back in the day. Remember when there were 10 videos that could get featured on the homepage? And it was a different kind of spike. It was a spike, and then people kind of stuck around, and we were getting like a couple thousand views a month, and it felt exciting. We played a show in San Francisco, and 40 people showed up. Let me tell you, 40 people is so much better than no people. So, like, not even 40 times better, like, so much better. My sister walked in, we were filming a video one time, my sister walked in with, she made soap, and she made grapefruit soap. Pamplemousse means grapefruit in French. And she was talking about grapefruit soap in this video, and we posted the video, and our fans got super excited. Oh my God, Pamplemousse soap, let me have Pamplemousse soap. That's what our fans sound like, blah, 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 yes, soap, Pamplemousse. So we like packaged up soap, and we started selling soap, and then we thought, gosh, maybe we can sell other things. And so we like put all of our music on a USB dongle. We called it what do we call it, a super dongle or something? Oh, we called it a super useful dongle. That's Natalie, by the way. So we called it a super useful dongle. We had like a packing party. We sold a couple hundred of these dongles, and we made like a couple $1,000 just by putting our music on a dongle. And then something really magical happened. We booked a show at a laundromat / cafe. That's a sentence that I just said. Something magical happened. We booked a show at a laundromat. After booking the show, this venue holds about like 40 people. After booking the show, we covered Single Ladies by Beyonce. And that video, when we put out that cover, it got like 500,000 views in a single day. It was the first time we made something that like poofed. And 2 weeks later, when we showed up to this laundromat that held 40 people, there were like 150 people inside. And there were another like 150 or 200 people outside. And literally, I was playing keyboard like this, and there were people like right here, and it was so awesome. It was like the most energetic. That was such an amazing moment where we really felt like, oh my God, we made something, and it's like resonating with people. We came out with a record of all of our cover songs. We called it Tribute to Famous People because famous people need more tributes to them. This record, we owned all of our own masters, right? We didn't work with a label, we didn't work with anybody, so we owned 100% of our recordings, of our sound recordings. And we posted this record on iTunes. We sold 30,000 songs in a month. We got paid $22,000 from that. So our art started making money. We took all that money, we were just investing it back in the band. It costs a lot to be a YouTube creator and to actually, if you want to get better and grow and buy costumes and sets. And we did all that. We made so many more videos over years and years and years. And we started touring as well, and more people started showing up to the shows. We started playing 300, 400, 500 person rooms. This is our first tour poster. We had all our fans sign our tour poster. We opened for OK Go in Washington, D.C. Fans started showing up wearing custom Pamplemousse merch, which is amazing. Amanda Palmer heard us and invited us to open for her on a New Year's show with the Dresden Dolls at the Warfield in San Francisco, which was absolutely amazing. We started playing bigger shows after that. And we used this money from MP3 sales and from everything that we were doing. We bought a house. We moved out of my childhood bedroom recording studio and into this new place. We built a recording studio from scratch. And right around this time that we were building this studio, we got a call from Hyundai. And Hyundai, literally, is so funny. It wasn't a call, it was an email. And their email said, hey, have you guys ever thought about being on TV? And we were like, no, but tell us more. And long story short, we ended up making 3 Christmas commercials for Hyundai, which was awesome and more money than Natalie and I had ever made in our entire lives. And quick aside about this here. This is an important point for me. I have a strong opinion on this kind of stuff. A lot of people, I think, view this as Pamplemousse selling out. I have the opposite reaction to this. I'm a little biased because I got the money, but I have an opposite reaction. For me, selling out is not making your art anymore. Selling out is quitting. Selling out is when you decide, no, I'm not going to do this thing that I'm passionate about. Instead, I'm going to do something else. That's selling out. Getting paid to make your art and to build your business and to improve the quality of your work and to improve the frequency of your work and to invest in yourself as an artist so you can make your art better and learn more and grow, that's the opposite of selling out. To me, this was such an important moment in our careers. We took this money, we invested it in building a real recording studio on this new property that we had just bought. We got awesome, like, real sound insulation. We were like doing string recordings. This is me at the time, I had more hair back then. I bought like a really awesome Hammond C3 organ from the 70s, which had like actual tone wheels that like spun. It was like an amazing musical instrument that I never would have been able to afford otherwise. We got this really cool like barnwood from Petaluma and put it on the walls. It had this amazing like quality of like absorbing sound. It just made the room sound so awesome. And we made better, more videos, and Ben Folds ended up wanting to record in our studio and came over, and we did a collab with Ben Folds, which was amazing. This guy is like the most special person I've ever met in my life. At the time, I was like reading books on how to record, and like you put the mic like 12 inches from the piano strings, and you angle it at a 45-degree angle, use this kind of shock mount for that kind of condenser microphone, you put it on this sort of stand, blah, blah, blah. Ben Folds gets to the recording studio, he picks up the microphone, he's like, Jack, I found something to record! And he's like literally holding the mic with his hand as he's yelling across the room. He doesn't give a fuck about the rules, and it is so awesome to watch him just be creative and free in a recording studio. This is him just like standing up playing drums. He couldn't find a stool and didn't want to take 8 seconds to walk across the room to like find so he just played drums standing up. He's amazing, and I learned a lot from working with him. Natalie and I started like investing in marketing for the band, and we like took really cool pictures of ourselves. Just shut up, these are cool pictures, okay? And we started playing bigger shows. This is us playing at the Fillmore a couple years ago, and this is like a 1,200 person room. It was, I think we got to like 1,130 tickets or something, like almost sold out. This is Natalie crowd surfing at that show because she's a badass and awesome. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Because I want to remind folks at this point in the story, this is, like, Pamplemousse is one thing. Like in a sea of duds, in a sea of failed ideas and projects, Pamplemousse was one thing that worked. On top of that, everything that we did after like finding Pamplemousse also kept not working. Like even after finding something that worked. I didn't tell the story like that. I told it like a story, like, and then we did a thing and everything worked and now everything's awesome. But that's not how it actually works. That's not how life actually is. We tried to do a webcast after forming Pamplemousse, and we did a once-a-week webcast, and we did it on Ustream because it was like 2011 and there was nothing else. And you know, we like had people showing up every week, but it cost so much and so much time to like do a weekly webcast. We had a whole show planned. Eventually, we had to shut it down because it wasn't paying for itself. It didn't work. It was too much time. It was taking away from our music. I also, at the time, was investing in, like, making weird photos, and I took, like, a bunch of weird photos and combined them to make weirder photos. And, like, it turns out nobody gave a shit about these photos. I thought they were really cool, but other duds at the time. We did a video with our fans. We invited people to show up and do a choreography with us in this huge music video in Dolores Park and walk around the city. We had like 80 fans show up or something like that. I don't even remember how many, but it was awesome and such a fun video. And I thought it was going to be awesome. It was like so memey and cool, and it was like one of our worst performing videos that we came out with. And it was like such a cool thing. I was still making animations that went nowhere. This was this like weird monster animation that I made where these like monsters like literally shot up pieces of fruit that were animated. And I just wanted to, like, really what I wanted to do was just watch fruit exploding. And I thought that would be fun. And so I cooked these like giant vats of pasta and like dug around them in my arms to like make cool like squishy sound effects. And that like totally gored the monsters afterwards. It was really fun. Nobody cared about it. Natalie and I tried learning how to dance. I'm a shit dancer. Natalie is a really great dancer. I am not. Another dud. Okay, this one is a particularly heartbreaking dud. So I plan videos like very like meticulously. I plan in like 5-second increments. Okay, then this is gonna happen. I like to make things that like you want to watch the whole time. And this video, oh my God, I was so excited about it. Like just artistically too, it went from like grayscale to color over a 3-minute period. It went from like simple shapes to like complex shapes. The music kind of echoed the visuals. It was like this really awesome thing that I was so pumped about from like a visual perspective and an artistic perspective. It took us so long to make all these sets, and we 3D projection mapped everything. And literally when we put this video out on YouTube, like I thought YouTube was broken. Like I was like, why? We uploaded it, why did nobody see it? And I remember I called our MCN at the time, I called Studio 71, I was like, YouTube broke! And they're like, Jack, no, it's not very good. And nobody's like, and God, like I'm laughing right now, but I remember, Nat, you remember, we were like devastated when we put out this video. It was, we poured ourselves into it, and to have that happen is just tough. Look, I guess my point is, even after the like nice little ping and moment where everything works, things keep not working. That just keeps happening, and it still feels just like playing that room to nobody. It still feels like a dud. It's almost a little bit worse because, you know, you at least here you're like, well, my future's ahead of me. But if you've made something that like works and then things not working, you're like, ah, fuck, I peaked. And it's like this terrible, it's like this awful feeling. So I've thought a lot about how to deal with the never-ending shit barrage. And here's how I think about it. I don't mean for this to be like prescriptive. It's not supposed to be advice. It's not, may not be right for you. This is like what I've done that's helped me kind of deal with these day-to-day ups and downs. Wow, I'm really hot. I'm gonna take this off. Sorry, I'm just getting excited and I'm hot. Okay. So I've thought a lot about how to deal with these ups and downs. Some people call it grit. I think of it as smoothing out my emotional curve. And I want to explain this part carefully, so I did another like fast slide thing. We all have to deal with our own microfails on a day-to-day basis. If you think of this, so if you think of this as your day-to-day ups and downs, humans are typically terrible at dealing with this moment right here. The moment when everything starts to go south. It doesn't matter if you spent the last 6 months going up and to the right, the second it starts to turn south, we all just freak out. So if this is my trajectory as a musician, I found it very helpful for me personally to think of it as smoothing out my curve so I can ride the long term instead of the day-to-day freakouts. Computers are amazing at smoothing out data. It took my laptop literally milliseconds to take this data and to turn it into that curve. Humans suck at smoothing out data. We have billions of years of evolutionary biology that induces freakout mode at the slightest threat. The slightest bump where you think, maybe that's the last good idea I'll ever have, maybe I've peaked, maybe I won't get another licensing deal, maybe I'll never write another good song, maybe I'll never make any more money and I'm gonna be fucked. We suck at dealing with that moment. And we have that reaction because there's this very densely packed collection of neurons in our brain called the amygdala. It's part of your limbic system. I'm about to describe fight or flight mode for those of you who are familiar with this. I'm sure everybody is. The limbic system is responsible for regulating our emotional life. It supports motivation, behavior, long-term memory. And when a human perceives a threat, that little bump, the amygdala starts activating various glands around your body, one of which is the adrenal gland, which sits on top of your kidneys. And it starts this hormone cascade that results in the production of epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, which is literally used to treat heart attacks. Like when you freak out, you get the same, like that is used to like stop somebody from dying because their heart stopped. Like it jump starts your heart and gets you really fired up and pumped. The resulting biological catastrophe is acceleration of heart and lung action, your digestion stops, your sphincters tighten, you get constriction of blood vessels, adrenaline gets all up in your liver, you release glucose into your blood, you get an insta sugar high. If you're a dude, your shit stops working. You get auditory loss, you get paling and flushing. The benefit of all this to your body is that you get better blood flow to your muscles so you can run away from that line. You get increased blood pressure to give you more energy. You get faster blood clotting in case a limb gets torn off. You get increased muscle tension to give you more strength and speed. And all of this is awesome if you are running from a lion. And it sucks if you're just an artist trying to deal with another dud. So when I get to this moment now, and my idea flops, and I feel threatened and scared, and a billion years of biology kicks in, and starts to like initiate that whole hormone cascade, and it tries to freak me out now. And that's when I stop and try to zoom out. I welcome the dud to the new club, and all of the accompanying feelings. And I try to trust logic instead of adrenaline. I'm not great at doing this. I'm up here talking about it. I'm okay at this. I'm not great at it. I'm getting better. But at Patreon, I'm surrounded by amazing people who are so good at this that I learn from all the time. One of those people is at Vidcon, actually. His name is Tyler Palmer. I don't think he's here right now. Oh, there he is. He's in the back right there. That's Tyler Palmer. Tyler is our Vice President of Operations and at Patreon. He runs the show. Without Tyler, Patreon would not exist. Let's give Tyler a round of applause. Tyler was the first employee at Patreon, and I mean, you see me. I'm an artist here. Tyler has made Patreon work. I wrote a recommendation letter for Tyler recently, and I want to just read a quick excerpt of it because it describes a person who is good at this, a person who has grit. Being a vice president of operations at a growing startup is like crossing a sinking field of mud with zero visibility, no clothes, and in the middle of a hurricane. It takes a special person who A, has the guts to do it in the first place, B, has the gall to pick a direction and run, and C, repeatedly face plants on a daily basis only to look up, spitting mud and laughing with a full heart and a savage appetite for the next plunge. That's Tyler. He has more grit than a bowl of grits. That's a stupid way to end it. But the point is, there's this, you know it when you see it. And by the way, I just want to point out that this ability is a learned ability. It would be bad if if humans were still in the wild, it would be a really bad thing if we responded to averages instead of freak out moments. Imagine if all of our emotions and reactions were sort of governed by averages over time instead of instant, fears and threats. You'd see a lion in the middle of a field and you'd be like, well, on the whole, actually, I feel pretty positive. And your face gets torn off. So this is this is a thing you have to learn to do. It is not normal for very good reasons. I guess the tragedy of all this, the comical tragedy here, is that humans prefer smooth experiences. It's just more pleasant. The day-to-day ups and downs fill our bodies with heart-pumping, digestion-stopping, sphincter-closing chemicals that make us just want to sit back and give up. No one wants a bumpy flight, but life is turbulence, and grit is that ability to smooth out your curve. Grit is the ability to self-apply an automobile suspension to the bumpy off-road adventures that make up our days. It doesn't mean not feeling the highs. I still get excited about things. I still get excited and positive and optimistic for life. It just means that when your body starts to enter freak-out mode, you're able to recognize that and stop that hormone cascade from controlling your life and your decisions. I'm going to go back to the story part now, the part where Pamplemousse is starting to kick up and it's starting to work. We're also still coming out with duds like the webcast. But this is the moment of the story where I started thinking about this, what I call the discrepancy, and I talk about all the time because it's a really important thing that I think we've kind of just culturally gotten accustomed to. The discrepancy is the difference between the impact that artists have on the world, the joy and the happiness and the love and the passion and the value that we all get from artists. It's the difference between that and then the dollars that are returned back to artists. That huge delta is what I call the discrepancy. I'll give you an example of this. One Christmas, Natalie and I did a book drive for the Richmond School District up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we offered our EP for free to anyone who donated a book. And the school district rented a shipping container to keep up with like 11,000 packages that came from Amazon over a period of a few weeks. Literally, it was like over $140,000 of books came to the school district. And it was a moment I was so proud of. I felt so good, like just altruistically I felt really good because I was helping people and I felt impactful as an artist, but there's a selfish part of it too, where I'm like, yeah, I did that. It like feels good selfishly to like feel like you have value in the world. I don't know if that makes sense, but that, like there's something about it that isn't, it just feels good. You know, that's $140,000 there from uploading one video, pointing people to this thing. And then around the same time, this actually, the next screenshot isn't taken from exactly the same time, but it's within a year or two. This is my YouTube dashboard, and this shows 1 million views and $166 of ad revenue from those views. So that's what I mean by the discrepancy. It's like artists have all this impact on the world in awesome, wonderful ways, and yet the value that is returned to them from the things that actually bring the value to the world, the videos themselves, the value that's returned to them is so small. That is so weird to me that that we're okay with this. Now actually in 2018, we're starting to be less okay with it, and that's awesome. But like in 2013, this wasn't a problem that people were talking about. It blew my mind. That's the discrepancy. That's what I'm talking about. It wasn't always there. For instance, Natalie did a Kickstarter campaign years ago, and she raised over $100,000 on Kickstarter, and it felt awesome. That felt like the discrepancy was melting away. We would do these live streams through a company called Stage It. You could sell tickets to a live stream, and then fans could tip on top of the live stream, which doesn't sound novel anymore. But in 2011, this was really awesome. Natalie and I would do these shows for 45 minutes. We'd make like $2,000 from doing a show. That was amazing. Again, the discrepancy was starting to melt away. So it wasn't always there, but the thing that I realized was that fans valued me more than tech companies valued me. Whenever the fans got involved with the artist, the fans always felt like they were getting so much value. And the tech companies, for whatever reason, didn't see that value. They didn't recognize it. And of course, that was the insight that led to Patreon, which was the second thing in my life that was a spark that actually worked. And so I want to just briefly describe that second spark before we get back to more duds. The story of how that second spark actually came about, how Patreon came about. It was 2013, and I was working on this robot music video. I was listening to a lot of Skrillex at the time. And the idea was I was going to be in the middle playing guitar. There's going to be these two rotating elevators on either side of me. And the elevators would come up, and two robots would come out of the elevators, and they would each be playing MIDI controllers. And I'd be in the middle playing electric guitar, and I was going to rock out with these electric robots, and it was going to be awesome. So that's what I set out to build. And it turned out to be very complicated, and the plans for these elevators got really complicated. I got this pulley system on Amazon, and then I got a self-elevating desk, and it turned out to be a mess. Then I decided, I could build a replica of the Millennium Falcon cockpit behind me while I'm doing all this. So I start framing a wall to build the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon on, and I'm building multiple elevators now. I start making the panels for the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, and now I'm spending 13, 14-hour days. I'm taking daily trips to Home Depot, and every time I swipe my card, it's like another 150, 200 bucks. I'm starting to spend like thousands of dollars on this video. This is me at the time describing one of the elevators that I had just finished. And I had this horrible realization, like 6 weeks into this project. It's like, oh my God, I'm starting to spend thousands of dollars on this thing, and I'm going to upload it, and it's going to get 1 million views, and I'm going to make $200, and oh my God. And I was starting to freak out about that, and I picked up my little black book, and I drew this, which was Jack Conte is creating videos, is making videos. Pay him $1 per video. The idea was like, if my fans got involved, I know that they would pay more for my videos than YouTube would pay me, or than Facebook would pay me, or someone else. If my fans paid me, I know that they care about what I'm making. I know that like they're excited about it. I sketched out the idea further on like 14 pieces of printer paper, and I called up my freshman year roommate, Sam, who got so pumped about the idea, he started building it that night. He started coding Patreon the night I told him about it. I went back to the studio and started building Millennium Falcon pedals and boards. Sam's coding Patreon. The set is like really coming together. At this point, I'm spending like 18-hour days. I've spent over 10,000 bucks. I've maxed out a credit card. Sam is suffering for a whole other series of reasons, building the thing from scratch, which is a nightmare and very messy. And he's like coding from bed and like waking up for an hour and like coding and then going back to sleep. At this point now, I'm like, nobody's around. Natalie's gone on tour, so I'm like hoarding garbage and like going to junkyards and finding cool things for the set. These are my hands. This is now like 2.5 months into making a project. It's just like from wearing latex gloves all day, just glue burns and moisture, just like ugh. I wrote a blog post at the time. My mindset, I was so scared because I was just putting it all out there. I was going like completely to the wall on this one. It was like I was all in. And I wrote this blog post called I'm Fucking Terrified, and I'll read a quick section from this blog post because it really describes like where my head was at the time. Like this was not an exciting thing. I mean, it was, but it was a very dark period of my life. Here's the blog post. Just a quick bit of it here. This situation is foreign to me. Usually I'm careful. I'm a well-educated son of a doctor from the suburbs. It's true. I make good decisions, but the consistent weight of choices, the financial discretion, the same good sense that has kept me afloat as an artist would keep me from making this video. After all, there's zero potential return on investment, right? So at the beginning of this process, I decided to bury my sculpted prudence in the backyard for a month. Maybe I'll dig it up when this video is finished, but right now, it only stands between me and my fun little art project. That's what it feels like. I'm gluing frosty paper onto washers, cutting cardboard boxes and spray painting them silver. And all the while, I'm watching my savings melt into nothing. I feel like a guilty child slotting quarter after quarter into a shiny arcade. That's what I felt like. It was a scary moment for me in my life. The set, though, came together. The robots came together. This is an actual clip of the video. That's a fully animatronic head. I released this video on YouTube, and at the end of it, I said, hey everybody, I'm trying this thing called Patreon. I think it can help a lot of people. Join me. And I told them the story of this. I made a behind-the-scenes video, like telling people about how hard I worked and what went into it. Within 2 weeks of launching this video and telling people about this, when we launched Patreon, I was making over $5,000 per month for my fans. It was such an incredible moment for me. At the same time, the CEO of Electro Harmonics, remember that guitar pedal company that I was talking about earlier? The video featured these guitar pedals, not because it was an ad for Electro Harmonics, just Jack Johnson wrote a song about surfboards. He liked his surfboards. I wrote a song about my pedals. I like my guitar pedals. And so I just put them in the video, and I thought it was cool. The song was about like my music and how I made it. And he saw this video, and he got so pumped about it, he sent me a check for $5,000. And the $5,000 from my patrons and the $5,000 from this guitar pedal company paid for the video in like a month. And it was like my whole world like turned right side up in this moment. It was such an incredible demonstration of of what patronage meant and the impact of that, I still get excited thinking about that. It was such a special time. Sam kept working on the website and making it better. Creators started launching on the platform. It was unbelievable. We didn't have any sales or marketing. It was just me and Sam. 3 months later, Tyler joined us. And all these creators started launching. Chris Reiniak does these amazing scribbles, morning scribbles. He does a new friendly monster drawing every morning. His fans are paying him over $1,000 a month to draw these monsters. The professor does reviews of Magic the Gathering, quit his job to do these reviews, was making $6,000 a month. It felt like anything else that I had ever done. It was just a bunch of people in a room grinding and working really hard and trying to figure out what to do next. And our office was a total mess, and Sam was still coding from bed, like literally in bed. And like we'd stay up really late because there'd be something that would happen, and hundreds of patrons and creators would write in, and creators were like asking us for features, and then we'd yell at Sam and he'd be like, okay, and he'd like try to bang something out. I remember when we hit $100,000 pledged, $100,000. It felt incredible. It felt like we did it. And we raised a round of financing from Index Ventures. We signed our term sheet for a $15 million round of financing at a Lindsey Sterling concert. She's one of my favorite YouTubers. And we signed this term sheet at her concert. It was such a great moment. That allowed us to move into a bigger office and hire more people. We hired even more people. Now Patreon is 160 people. We have creators that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on the platform. And this year alone, Patreon's going to send $300 million to creative people around the world. All this feels awesome, and I'm super proud of it, and I feel so excited about Patreon. And I also want to remind everybody, it's one thing. It's the second thing that I did that worked, and everything else flopped. And not only that, since Patreon, everything else I've done since then has also flopped. This is a vlog that I uploaded. Oh God, I freaking love Casey Neistat. And I decided to do daily vlogs, and oh God, nobody watched these vlogs. And I shut it down like a year later. Natalie and I started a morning show called Mornings with Pomplamoose, and we had a lot of fun, and it was great. I was watching a lot of Rhett and Link on Good Mythical Morning, and I love that show. And we tried to do a morning show. I thought it'd be fun to do a morning show, and it just never blew up, and so we shut it down eventually. This is a pizza oven that we built. God, this pizza oven fucking sucks. It is the worst. You can't make bad pizza, and we made horrible pizza in this pizza oven. So, I guess the point is the duds just keep on keeping on. I think I'll make duds until I stop making things, which is going to be when I die. And I'm cool with that. I think a lot of people give up before they get to a green one. There's this moment where it's just really hard and you're just sick of making duds. I've been there so many times. And you can't see the green one coming, and you give up. And Greg LeMond, who's a famous cyclist, has a wonderful quote that I just love, and it applies to cycling, but I think it applies to being a video creator, any sort of creative person. He said, it doesn't get any easier, you just get faster. And I think being a creator is just like that. You build your skills, and you get better at making videos, you get better at storytelling, you get better at audio editing, you get better at reaching people. But I think what folks don't realize is it doesn't get any easier. You keep making duds, and they keep flopping, and you have to still deal with that. That's just part of being a creative person. So, don't give up. don't give up. It's hard, and it will always be hard. Always. And you never know how close you really are. Cool, I'm going to stop. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna take, we have like 15 minutes left, so I'm gonna take some questions. You can tweet at me and do hashtag Vidcon Nothing Works. And I'm gonna look for questions. It's easier than running a microphone around the room. Do that. And I've got Twitter right here. Look, I just opened it up. And so yeah, tweet at me. I got my notifications tab open right here. I'm taking questions. I've never done this before. We'll see how this works.
How many slides did you have?
I had 307 slides. The Twitter, so I'm at Jack Conte, and the hashtag is Vidcon Nothing Works. Hashtag Vidcon Nothing Works. I'm going to check hashtag Vidcon Nothing Works right now. Somebody tell a joke while I'm doing this. Somebody yell out a joke. I'm serious. Somebody tell a joke. Vidcon Nothing Works. All right, ask me some questions, folks. Ask hard questions. Use that hashtag or tweet at me. Vidcon Nothing Works. This is taking a while to refresh.
This isn't working.
Oh, here we go. Your sound design in the Casey videos were beyond amazing. Any tips on getting started on sound design for videos? Yes. Splice is an amazing website where you can find sounds. You can make your own sounds, and I make a lot of my own sounds, but if you're like getting started, you can use Splice. Don't lean too much on it. Learn about sound. Learn how to make sound. Read articles on compression and EQ. 95% of like that studio sound, like professional sound, is because of great compression and great EQ. Learn about those concepts, dynamics, processing, and equalization. They will help you like sculpt sounds and make them awesome. Also, read about the spectrum of sound, the frequency spectrum. That will help you think about mixing. You want to have like high frequency sounds and low frequency sounds and put them together to make sounds that sound big. If you have a bunch of guitars layered on top of each other, it's all these mids together and it sounds muddy and gross. You want like big, wide, sweeping soundscapes. You can learn about that stuff by learning about the frequency spectrum, equalization, and dynamics processing through compression and limiting and stuff like that. Those are like high-level things. Some low-level things would be like, subscribe to a sound effects library. I subscribe to Splice, and I get like 300 sound downloads a month, and I can like search for like boiling water, and you plop a boiling water sound over your like picture of boiling water, and it just like pops and fizzes and makes the video much more engaging. Some few thoughts on sound design. Okay, more questions. How do you plan your YouTube videos? I have a shot. Oh, you know what? I actually have the plan for the Casey video. Oh, I'm not going to find it. It was in a keynote presentation like this one, and I start with like the main ideas. Like I want to do 3 things. I want to get Casey's attention. Let me find this. It was like 3 things that I wanted to do in the video, and then I wanted to tell the Patreon story. I wanted to talk about a little bit of my history as an artist, so that he knew that I was an artist too, and I wasn't like some random CEO just trying to get him to use our software. And then I wanted to do the plane ticket thing, because I thought that would be like a great way to end. So I know I've got like some 3 things, and then I improvise everything in between. I don't write a script. I like walk around with the camera, and if I get an idea, if I see some cool looking bugs or something, like I go over and I shoot it. But like everything in the middle of this framework of this outline is completely improvised. I edit at the same time as I shoot. That's a big no-no in like the world of production. You want to plan the whole thing out, shoot first, and then edit later. Fuck that. That's not how I do it. I will shoot a little bit, and then I edit right there. And then I shoot a little bit, and I edit right there. And sometimes I take the camera and I point it at the editing software, and then I zoom back out, and then I talk about the fact that I'm editing the video, and then I talk to the camera, and then I zoom back in. It allows you to be much more free and agile with the editing process if you're editing and shooting at the same time. Again, it's a big no-no, but it works for me, and I like doing it that way. It feels very freeing and like creative and improvised. More questions? This is amazing. This is so cool. Do you take time to step away from your craft when in a rut or facing failures, or do you find it more effective to keep creating until you get that spark again? I struggle with this one. Paul McCartney has this philosophy of songwriting where, like, when you get a spark, he won't stand up from the piano until the song is finished. Verse, chorus, bridge, lyrics, intro, ending. He won't stand up to poop until the song is done. And he hates the concept of the back burner. Oh, let's put it on the back burner. I love that idea, and I suck at it so bad. I always like give up halfway through the song. I'm like, ugh, I gotta poop. But I try to finish things. I try to finish things and publish them. And the reason I try to publish quickly and get work out there is because you don't. I gave another talk about this. You can't choose what you're famous for. Some of the things that I've made in my life, I've spent 3 months making. You saw some of the albums and things I spent 6 months working on, and I put them out there, and nobody saw them. And then Natalie and I made a video years ago. We made it in 24 hours, start to finish, and we just plopped it up. We were both like, and now it has 10 million views. And like, you compare that to this thing that you like just worked so hard on, and you know, for me, like sometimes you feel like you're in a creative rut, but actually you're not. People would resonate with that thing that you're making, and you just don't know it. So I try to push through. I try to just grind through and release the thing and publish anyway. I've given up too many times on albums that have never been released, and I don't like doing that because I've seen myself put things out that I didn't know would resonate with people, and they like really moved people and helped them. And also, sometimes you just need a vacation. And that's cool. Like, you've got to take a break sometimes, which I do. I really love how Patreon works, and I really want it to be huge in Indonesia. I know who asked this question. Somebody I talked to yesterday. But there's payments issues. So many people don't have credit cards with PayNow. So yeah, totally. I am aware of this. Patreon right now sends money to over hello. Patreon sends money to creators in over 100 countries from patrons in almost every country in the world, and internationalization is absolutely a big piece of what we need to do. We're going to do internationalization the right way by building the infrastructure first, and then we can go much faster as opposed to like trying to do country by country completely. So internationalization is around the corner. I can't promise when it's going to happen. But yeah, Patreon will be in every country in the world. I don't know if I can say that. It will be in many countries. Let's see. Oh, this is such a good question. Okay, this is from human question mark. How do you know when something isn't working and you need to dedicate your energy to something else? All right. That is so hard. It's so hard. And it turns out it's not just hard for artists, it's hard for product companies. Patreon is a product company. You'll like have a team grinding on something for 6 months or 9 months, and it's like kind of percolating and it's like working a little bit, but do you keep going or do you shut it down? That question surfaces everywhere in life for anybody who makes things. And yeah, so for me, here's how I think about it, and it's different for you, probably. I know what I want, and you have to be clear. I found if I don't know what I want, then I don't know whether I should shut the thing down or not. I always come back to like zooming out, what is it that I want? I'm gonna read to you all what I want. At least in my, not in Patreon world, in my creative artistic world, here's what's important to me. I keep it in a list on my phone. Publishing work frequently, spending most of my time on creative projects, personal growth in music and filmmaking, I feel like I'm getting better at my craft, a growing audience for my work. It's not like I need X number of people. I like the feeling of reaching more people. I like a growing audience. It makes me feel like I'm getting more impactful over time, which feels good to me. And having someone employed to do details, so I don't have to do logistics. I know that sounds silly, but it's very important to me. I don't like getting into the weeds on like, I've had to do that, and I still do that, but I much prefer to spend most of my time on creative projects. That's what's important to me. If the thing that I'm doing isn't helping me get these things, and it's been 4 or 5 months, and I don't see it coming up on the other side, I shut it down. And it's always painful. It hurts so bad to shut something down. Shutting down Mornings with Pompous, I was like sad for days. But yeah, that's how I think about it. It's never easy. It's like, is this thing that you're making, that you're working on, is it getting you closer to what you want? And I literally will check this list. Just make a list of what's important to you. It's kind of hard to make a list that lasts for a long time. You can refine it over time. Hopefully you find some themes and you can kind of bucket up to figure out what's important to you over the long run. That's a great question. Let's see. Creativity isn't a skill, it is a way of operating. Thoughts on this? Tips to constantly expand and challenge one's creative mind. I love that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think creativity, the way I think of it is, my method of operating is making lots of stuff and putting them out there, publishing. It's a great way to like live your life, because it's important to me to be publishing work frequently, and stuff fails and then stuff works and stuff fails, but it feels more like a mindset. There was an executive at Google, I forgot his name, but he said innovation is the process of failing every day and learning how to deal with that, or something like that. There's a Winston Churchill quote, success is, how does he say it? Success is going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. That is a method of operation, not a skill. I totally agree. Wow, as fun as this is, I do want to hear some voices. I feel like I'm just talking endlessly, and I want some people to talk. Yeah, what's up?
How do you motivate your team to keep going when you're not believing completely in yourself?
How do you motivate your team to keep going when you're not believing completely in yourself? Okay, can we turn off all phones? All phones, all recording. Can this just be for us right now? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Can I get like thumbs up from everybody? Okay, cool. I love